Trinity and Tawhid?
Well, like I said, I'm a layman, so obviously I can only say what I know.
Yeah, we'll try and keep this one a bit of a shorter dialogue because we've been here for a while. But so I'll lay out some basic problems I have with. I assume that you're a Sunni Muslim, right? Okay. So one of my biggest problems with
There's different like ideas of what a Sunni is, isn't it? So I'm just gonna say
Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
I'm just a Muslim that follows the Quran and the prophetic traditions of the Prophet.
Yes, but
So if that aligns with Sunni Islam, then I'm a Sunni.
would you say that you are part of one of the Aqidas that claim to be Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, if I'm pronouncing that correct? So for example, you have Afaris, Asharis and Maturidis. So you would be at least of one of those schools. Okay, so all of those schools agree on at least that they deny what's known as divine simplicity, right? So I'll explain to you what it is.
Four schools of thought, right? Hanbali, Ahmadi, Maliki and Shafi'i, right?
Those are schools of jurisprudence, not Aqidah.
Schools of thought, jurisprudence, same thing.
But jurisprudence is the way Islamic law is put in the land. It's not Islamic theology. We're talking about theology. Yeah?
When it comes to the subsects, Shia, Sunnis, all of that stuff, I'm not too learned on that. You get
Yes,
it?
yes.
And like I said, my base foundation, a Muslim that follows what the Quran says, and the Sunnah,
Yes.
the Hadith, and the prophetic traditions of
Yes,
That's it.
but the only reason why I bring this up is because when we talk about Trinity versus Tawhid, you need to know what I believe in about the Trinity to critique it, and I need to know what you believe about Tawhid to critique it, right? For example, Shia Muslims don't believe in what you believe in about Tawhid. Shia Muslims, pardon?
What is Tawhid?
Tawhid is the oneness of Allah.
That's basically that Allah is one.
Yes, but there are different articulations of how He's.
I don't need those articulations. Allah is one creator, that's it.
But the problem is if I want to critique what you believe in Tawhid, I have to critique specifically a certain articulation of that. Because everyone...
You can only critique someone who is like learned in the subject. You can't critique a layman. Like at the end of the day, we just average believers, like, you know, critique what I'm saying.
But if you don't want me to critique you, then you wouldn't have invited me to discuss another topic with you and accepted the invitation, right?
As far as I know from Tawhid, from what I've just said through my own mouth, critique that.
Okay.
Not what this scholar said or that scholar said, because there's difference of opinion.
So I'll ask you a few more questions about Tawhid. Do you believe that God has attributes which are really distinct?
I believe God has attributes that He's mentioned.
Yes. Are those attributes really distinct, like God's power?
As in, like, specific?
Like, God's power isn't the same as God's mercy.
Power and mercy are two different things.
Yeah, so they're
with
distinct
that
attributes.
concept, yes, it's distinct.
Okay, so here's going to be my first problem with Islamic Tawhid, is I believe that in saying that, you're going to make it so that God has parts. So let me just explain what I mean there.
If you're kind and generous,
Uh-huh.
and merciful, are you three different parts now?
Those would be different parts of you, because for example, for example, Thomas, right? I'm Thomas. Let's say Thomas is 5'10", right? 5'10" isn't the entirety of Thomas. You can't say Thomas is identical to 5'10".
That's your height.
But yes, but that's a part of me, right? Like an attribute. Or if I say Muhammad is a honourable man, yourself, right? Honourableness isn't identical to you. Otherwise, everything in the universe that's honourable would just be you. But honourableness is a part that makes you up, right? So we can already establish that is at least a metaphysical part about you. You can also have physical parts, like your thumb, that's a part, because it's not the whole of you, it's less than the whole of you. So a part is just that which is less than the whole, right? Now, my issue here is that if you say God has power, mercy, justice, all these things, and they're not the same as each other in God, then they're not going to be the entirety of God. They're going to be less than the whole of Him, and thus a part of Him.
How can mercy and like as an attribute, how can it be the same thing? They both do different
Okay,
functions.
so from a Christian paradigm, what we say is that all of these things are identical in entity and reality in God. And that is because when we say that God has power and justice, we're not using it in the univocal definition of the term, like we would see here. Otherwise, the justice and power that we see in creation itself would just be parts of God, right? He would be a part of the genus of that. But what we're saying is that we're using it analogically. So something like justice, power, and mercy is all identical in God, although they have their own proper definitions and concepts. In the Christian context, yeah. So in Christianity, we don't believe that God has really distinct attributes. We believe it's identical to himself. But it's not subjective.
Are two different things.
Yeah, but that's what we're having the conversation on critiquing, right? So when I'm critiquing Tawhid, I'm focusing on what I think is wrong about it, which is that. Because I think that that's going to make God made up of parts.
You're thinking from the lenses of your belief.
I'm using philosophy. I could be a non-Christian and give you the same argument, right? Because I'm not utilizing the Bible. That's my point. If you say that God's mercy, power, and all the other predicates that he has aren't the same as one another, they're distinct, then it's going to, but then they're going to not be identical to God himself. Okay, is mercy and justice identical to Allah?
What do you mean identical?
The same thing. The same thing in reality. For example, if I say Bill Clinton is the 42nd president of the United States, that would mean everything that's true of the 42nd president of the United States is true of Bill Clinton. If I say the 42nd president of the United States has grey hair, it would follow Bill Clinton does. Pardon?
Not necessarily.
So you're denying the law of identity? So it's the first law of logic, the law of identity, right? That a thing is identical to itself. Bill Clinton is the 42nd president of the United States.
If I go commit a crime, is that identical of who I am?
The crime itself isn't identical to you, but you are identical to the person that committed that crime, right? Let's say Jack the Ripper commits a crime, and Jack the Ripper's real name is Jacob, right? Jacob would be identical to Jack the Ripper, right? So what I'm asking you is, although Jack the Ripper having brown hair or something like that wouldn't be identical to him, that would be a part of him, a predicate, right? So what I'm asking you is, when you say that God is merciful or God is just, God has power, is God identical to that, or is he is that a predicate that you apply to him? Is that an attribution? Okay, good. So then it's not going to be the whole of God, but it's going to be less than the whole of him. But notice that we already defined that that's what a part is.
Are you putting these attributes as in like a physical thing?
No.
So metaphysical?
Metaphysical, yeah.
Okay, so
because we already established metaphysical parts exist. Well, but we already established that metaphysical parts exist, right? When we talked about your love, your justice, your intellect, things like that, those aren't physical parts about you. Okay, so those would be metaphysical parts. So those exist. So then all that is required for any X or anything to be a metaphysical part is that it's less than the entirety of its subject. Now, God's mercy and power, according to you, are less than the whole of God. So they would be a part of it.
Like, you're reasoning and the way you're making it sound like your logical reasoning, I don't see it. Yeah. I don't understand how you're going to like, because the way I see it is different to the way you see it. I don't believe that an attribute has to be physically a part.
I never said physically. I'm not saying it's a physical part.
Yeah, but like, even metaphysically, yeah? You're saying the attribute is identical to God. Being identical is what do you mean, like?
Okay, identity is where it's the same thing in entity or reality.
You can't really say it's Allah's identity, is it?
You can't say it's identical to it, because otherwise the attributes wouldn't be distinct from each other, because then they would just be the same thing, right? So that's the point. So then the point is if you say these things are just predicates or attributes that you do ascribe to God, then the problem is going to be that they're not the whole of him and they're less than the whole of him. But if I recall what I brought you back to the start of this conversation about, we started this off by saying,
The thing is, you know,
wait,
Aqidah, yeah? As Muslims over there, when it comes to Aqidah, you have to be very careful what you say. And you don't want to be in error. That's why it's our conversation for me.
Because
if you want to say that you can't solve this right now, I'm perfectly fine with it. Go and research it.
No, it's not about solving. You don't understand.
I'm trying
when it comes to Islamic creed, it's a very sensitive topic. You can say something that's an error without realizing.
Because I'm trying to understand the way he's trying to explain it.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to get
It's
into
not
it.
making sense.
So the only thing that is needed for my argument to be true is just that what a metaphysical part is just, or what a part in general is just that which is less than the whole of its subject. And we can everyone agrees on that definition of a part, because that's just what a part is. But the problem is that you have to say that about the attributes of God, that they're less than the whole of him, they're not the whole of him. But then the issue is that that's just the definition of what a part is. So God would be a part under this paradigm, or he would be made up of parts. I'm okay, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, then according to that definition, God would be made up of parts.
According to your definition.
Do you have an alternative definition? Okay, good. It's because you know that everything which is less...
In what you're trying to say.
Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly, I'm trying to understand the way that you explain it, but in my brain it's not making sense.
Yeah, that's perfectly okay. Because...
If you were to give me something to research, what would it be?
On this particular topic, you would have to research... Okay, you would have to research something called Mariology, or Mariology. It just means the study of parts and whole relationships in philosophy. So if you look up, for example, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and look up...
Give me something like easy, to begin with.
Something easy.
Like what you said, Mariology?
So I think just, I don't think it's ever going to be easy, but just trying to read...
How do you spell that?
It should be... I'm dyslexic, so it might be really hard for me to spell it. Mereology. I can't spell in my head, so that might be terribly wrong.
It's called Mariology.
Mariology, yep.
Mariology. It's not picking up.
Let me see if I can Google it for you.
Yeah, he's got open fires here. He's got open fires here. Like a big bin in that.
I will try to look it up for you.
Mariology.
This is it here.
M-E-R-E.
Okay.
M-E-R-E-O. There you go. So,
what does this explain?
So, if you look at it there, it's the study of part to whole relationships in philosophy, right? And the key thing to research here is just...
Isn't philosophy subjective though?
No. So, philosophy is just... Okay, so first of all, philosophy is just the love of wisdom, right? That's where the Greek word philos and philo and sophia come from, right? But good philosophy is going to be objective in that it's true. So if you have a philosophical system that's true, it is objective. But ultimately, in a certain sense, it is opinion of everyone. But for example, the Quran itself is a book which tells you about things about philosophy, such as that God exists, that God is good, these things that you learn about Allah, right? Or that God has really distinct attributes. These are philosophical things, but at least according to the Islamic paradigm, it's objective in that it's true. So just because something is demonstrated philosophically doesn't mean that the demonstration is false, because there are true demonstrations of philosophy. For example, if I want to prove that you could die, I would say, premise one, Muhammad is a man, all men can die, therefore Muhammad could die, right? You could die. It's possible that could happen. That was proven philosophically. And any reason that you give for...
Why would that need to be proven philosophically when people have died before?
Well, because, yeah, but that's, what's it called? That would be not a deductive, an inductive inference. that you could die, right? But it's still philosophically reasoned towards. Yeah, because your reasoning goes like this. I've seen everyone else die, therefore, because I'm also a person, it's likely that I will die, right? That's a philosophical thought process in itself, right? Again, philosophy is just synonymous with reasoning. Yeah, but okay, philosophy is just synonymous with reasoning, right? Anytime you're using your reason, logic, your intellect, you're using philosophy. So when I'm giving you this argument, all I'm doing is giving you natural principles for reason to show you that, hey, this is why I don't think that your conception of God is a true conception. Yep, fair enough.
So you just want me to have a look up on...
Yeah, if you want to look up mereology, and then after that, if you want to look up something called divine simplicity, which is the doctrine that God has no parts, then you can study into that. And I think that once you look up those things, you'll see a lot more what I'm speaking about right now.
Divine simplicity?
Divine simplicity, yeah.
I think this is Aqidah, isn't it?
Divine simplicity is Shia Aqidah would be compatible with it, and also I believe Sufi Aqidah would be compatible with it as well. But I don't believe there are any schools within Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah that would be compatible with divine simplicity, which is why I'm pinpointing that specific belief for this discussion. Yep. Okay, fair enough. I think that's been a good conversation between us. So it's been nice meeting you. It's been nice to meet you as well, man. I'm just going to wrap up for the cameras here, yeah? Okay, God bless you guys. So we just had a conversation with Mohammed and his friend over here about Islamic divine simplicity. Me and young Bob also had a conversation before about, we had a conversation about the continuity argument to demonstrate that any proof for Muhammad being a true prophet must ultimately be a circular argument, which was an interesting section. And also here we've just talked about divine simplicity, Islam, and its incompatibility philosophically. It's been a good discussion. I really commend these guys for being very humble in the discussion, being willing to listen, which you don't get a lot of at Speaker's Corner. So God bless them. God bless everyone watching. We pray that they'll come to Christianity and to the truth. It's been your boy Thomas Apologia. If you like my stuff, go to my channel and subscribe. With that being said, God bless. Updates on my channel. I'm still running my channel despite uploads being a little bit less, but we're gonna... The channel name is Thomas Apologia. Subscribe if you can. I'm gonna be releasing more stuff on philosophy, hopefully also some more popular level stuff as well, because I know people find some things kind of hard to grapple with. But with that being said, I'm gonna try and release more content for you guys. God bless you all.